How good is Mateo Kovacic? What are his abilities, weaknesses? How has he improved? And what does he bring to the table? This is Mateo Kovacic player profile. And to present this profile with me today is Taron Sachdeva. Taron, welcome back to Chelsea Perspective.
Thanks for having me back on the channel, and I'm excited to kind of, do this series, very new on your channel. And yeah, I'm really excited to analyze Kovacic. And I'm sure a lot of people kind of watch Kovacic, but they don't know his ins and outs as a player, how he kind of got to the stage. I'm excited to show that to the fans.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk football with you. And I'm glad that you chose a player that I believe you like so much and you followed him for a long time. So, Taron, let's start by talking about Kovacic's current form. How good has he been under Thomas Tuchel?
Yeah, he's done really well under Thomas Tuchel, and under Lampard in the new system in the 4-2-3-1 when Lampard first came in, he was really, really good, and he was a player of the season. But when we changed to attack and 8 system with a very expansive style of football, Kovacic had struggled to get in ahead of Mason Mount, your Kantes, and your Jorginho. So yeah, you saw him trying to be tried into the lone DM role and a few other positions, didn't really work. But under Thomas Tuchel in this really compact kind of possession-based system, he looks like he's in his element. He presses really well. He's tenacious. He's really good at tackling. He's great on the ball. And yeah, I think, that double pivot relied on so heavily in this team, to press well, to keep the ball, to alleviate a lot of pressure. And every game that I've seen Kovacic play under Thomas Tuchel, bar maybe West Brom, and when he came back from his injury towards the end of last season, I think he's been a standout player. If you think back to obviously just a week ago, the Arsenal game, he was amazing. He played the ball into Lukaku so well. And he was so composed and getting, El Neni and all these other midfielders out of the game. So, yeah, I think he's had a really good kind of revitalization under Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. He's been great. Even Thomas Tuchel himself, in a very comical way, actually was at a few weeks ago saying how much he loved him. He said something like, if we wake him up in the middle of the night, he's ready to go. And but that's, by the way, he's a really good player. I appreciate that. And how about his abilities? Let's talk about his abilities. Over to you, Taron.
Yeah, I think that the main ability that everyone knows about is his press resistance and the way he kind of breaks out of the most aggressive presses in world football in the Premier League. And, the amount of times he played Liverpool, Man Cities, and he's been that one player on the pitch who, really looks like he's in his element and he's meant to be there. If you think back to the Bayern Munich game in the Champions League when we lost 3-0 at home, there was one player in our team who I actually thought really deserved to play, and that was Kovacic. And he was, superb. He dealt with Thiago and Kimmich very well. And that's probably his best asset, is when players are kind of pressing him high up and trying to win the ball so they can attack the goal. He just turns, uses physicality and his game intelligence to quickly break the press. And honestly, that is such a key attribute in the modern day, is to break that press. If teams can win the ball high up, in 2 seconds it can be a goal. And when you have a player like Kovacic in there to break through and to get the team up to the pitch quickly, it is crucial. Yeah, another key attribute is the way he, when he presses the ball, the way he breaks through the middle of the pitch. Like, literally, there's no players there. You'll see maybe 4 or 5 defenders through there, and he just breaks through literally like a hot butter through a knife, just smashes through the middle of the pitch, and suddenly he's in the opposition box. And yeah, that kind of ties through to his dribbling, which is all to do with breaking through to the press, dribbling through the middle of the pitch in tight situations where you need the skill of a player to get through some of the best defenders in Europe. Kovacic can use amazing skill, dribble through, use his technical excellence to get through tight spaces. And again, that is a key skill to have in the modern game, is that ability. And when, defenders these days can do everything, they can really be physical, they can defend well, they can pass well. You need a player who can dribble through the middle of the pitch very well. And those are probably his key abilities. His defending is very underrated, I'd say, at times. He can, run back. If you remember in the Super Cup game where it was at the 160th minute, Kovacic had just come back from the Croatia kind of internationals. He sprinted back all the way to catch up with Gerard Moreno from the corner and, defended very well. So, yeah, his defending is very good as well. And he can tackle really ferociously. Nobody really messes with him in the Premier League. They know for his size, he is very aggressive and he is a very great kind of physical player. So, yeah, I'd say his defending, his dribbling and his press resistance are probably his best.
Yeah, I really do like the guy's abilities, his ability on the ball. And yes, he's press resistant and also his ability to dribble his way out of tight spaces, that's been great for us because he's the only guy I see that can do that for us since the departure of Eden Hazard. And that's been great to see because that ability to get away from tight spaces, being press resistance, even when opponents press aggressively, he's always there. He takes the risk and help us progress the ball. I think it's been pivotal to the way we play. And without him, in most cases, would have been difficult for us to progress the ball without somebody like him. And that's good to see. Another thing is this: no player is perfect. We all know that. So can you honestly tell us what are Mateo Kovacic's weaknesses?
Yeah, his shooting is definitely a weakness, and that's not even harsh to say. He scored probably 2 goals in 4 years at Chelsea. I think it's come to now one in Valencia and then one against Everton at Goodison Park. In the space of like a week, he scored both them goals, and then it was back to the drawing board, the kind of long shots from range. If he's picking up the ball outside the box, I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be very honest. I mean, I don't have confidence he's going to hit the target or even shoot from the angle. But I honestly think if he could shoot well, he'd be by far one of the best midfielders in world football by a big margin because he can do everything. He can pass, he can shoot, he can dribble, he can defend, and there might be not many players all round who can really keep up with him in that aspect. So if he can get working with Thomas Tuchel and kind of the coaches, now Romelu Lukaku is there as well, a real goal scorer, a real finisher who can help him with the shooting side of the game, a real leader, a real mentor, and can teach Kovacic how to shoot, properly from outside the box, from inside the box, to have that goal instinct. I think, that could be a big asset to him. But, that can kind of lead to the point that he doesn't really need to score goals in the system, to be honest. You say we need a goal scorer midfielder, but the way our system is, that pivot is solely in there to win balls, to recycle possession, to transition from defense to attack, and that's their main job. It's not to score goals. If they did score goals, it'd be extra nice. It'd be already winning titles, Premier League titles. But unfortunately, Kovacic and Jorginho are not the best shooters of the ball, and they can't have the technique to hit balls into the top bins at all stages. But one thing maybe is about Kovacic, I'd say he does tend to lose concentration at times when he's defending. And that's not kind of a criticism to Kovacic. I'm referring to the West Brom game again. There was times where he was letting runners run through the middle very easily, letting players glide past him when he was not really aware of what's happening. Similar to Kurt Zouma when he's defending, kind of similarly just loses kind of to the awareness. And when you're up against the best kind of technical players in Europe, it does tend to happen. But if those two assets, I'd say that Kovacic needs to improve on to become, in my opinion, world class, it is the awareness of defending and the shooting.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of defensively, he on his day he can put in good tackles. He usually I like to see that, but his shooting is something that you could say the rugby union would be very proud of, but not not in football. No disrespect to him. That is, he's been woeful in terms of shooting, and I don't know what the problem is. And yes, thank you for taking some time to highlight some of the his weaknesses, and hopefully he gets to work on those aspects of his game and become a much better player. So our next question for you, Taron, is this. For me, if you ask me, I'd say I'm still seeing the same Mateo Kovacic that I've known since he signed for Chelsea. I haven't seen any improvement. But over to you, Taron. Do you think he's improved? If the answer is yes, and what aspect of his game has he improved?
I think decision making is probably what I'd say he's improved a lot. When he first came to Chelsea, he had played for Real Madrid, Inter Milan sides, not really been the key player for them, kind of just hovering around the benches, playing some first team football. But everyone already know this guy was going to be a top player. And then he got moved to Chelsea. I'd say to an aspect, he looked quite raw in his first season. He was a very good dribbler. You can tell he does have a great pass in his locker. But there was that kind of decision making of when to, make a drive and run through the middle, when to pass, when to release the ball, when to defend. And then the Lampard season came, his first season, managing Chelsea, and Kovacic really looked like he'd worked with that top class, one of the best midfielders in our history, and had really developed his game a lot. And he really was knowing when to break through the press, when to hold his own, when to kind of defend, when to not receive the ball. He really looked like he improved. And under Thomas Tuchel, that has really just become excelled even more, in my opinion. You see, like I said, the Arsenal game, he was absolutely excellent in the middle of the pitch. When to pass it into Lukaku, when to pass it to James, when to play 1-2 with Jorginho in the middle. And yeah, I think his decision making has really improved. Like I said, when he first came in, I wasn't really convinced if he was going to be amazing, and he did have all the attributes to get there, but he really has improved the decision making. And now you can see when he knows how to dribble through the middle of the pitch, he can rip through teams easily now, and he has a decision making of when to do it. So that's an attribute. And maybe, like I said, his dribbling was very good when he came to Chelsea, but now I'd even go to say his dribbling is world class at this stage. And I wouldn't say there's many midfielders in world football who really can comprehend with his dribbling right now. Like, how many midfielders can you say can rip through the middle of a pitch? You can take out 4, 5, 6 world-class midfielders and defenders and open up a goal-scoring chance for an opponent. And now with Romelu Lukaku there, if he can rip through 4 or 5 players and pass to Lukaku, Kovacic's assists could go up to, 10, 15 this season, even if you think about it. So, yeah, his dribbling was quite raw when he came to Chelsea. Decision-making was quite, I'd say, more like a young player, but now he's really shown his experience, and you can tell he has a real level head on his shoulders, and he really knows when to do what on the pitch.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And a prime example of his improvement in terms of decision making was that the pass before the final pass for Lukaku's first goal. It was delicious. It was well timed. He looked up quickly and it just boom. He measured the pass straight to where Reece James wanted it, and then put in the cross, and that was great to see. And yeah. Hopefully he keeps improving because he's a great player. And like you've mentioned, there are only a few players in world football who are able to escape tight spaces and then make progressive runs with the ball on his feet. And that's something nice to see. Okay, now overall, Taron, what does he bring to the table? What does he bring to the table that improves the team?
Yeah, like I said, all the attributes before, but if I was to add more on what he brings to the table, I say he's that X factor in the team that I'd say, we have a very good squad and a very good unit at the minute, but apart from Christian Pulisic, there's not many players in this team that I would say when they receive the ball, you get that excitement from them. You think they're going to take someone on, they're going to nutmeg their defender, they're going to drive through, they're going to have a shot, not a shot maybe, but they're going to find a good pass. It's that kind of feeling you get, even in the stadium where I go to watch Kovacic sometimes. Every time he gets the ball, I have this kind of rush, and I think he's going to do something special. He excites the fans so much, and you might think you don't need these players in your teams, but honestly, you do. If you're in a stadium and say it's 0-0 in the 80th minute, and Kovacic kind of picks up the ball, drives through the middle, and gets the fans going, and that can raise the levels of the whole stadium, make the team play even better. Even in the Lampard season, it happened multiple occasions where he would just rise the fans, get them really gassed, get them really going, and you'd really want to see something else happen. So that's definitely what he brings to the team. And also his link-up plays with Jorginho in the middle are what, fans have been seeing for the last few years. They seem to have an almost telepathic connection of when to, play a 1-2, when to play through the middle, when to pass. And it's beautiful to watch, honestly. I say Kante and Jorginho are probably overall our best pivot as a two you've seen in the Champions League. But the bond that Kovacic and Jorginho have in that middle, the understanding, the defending kind of working, the attacking kind of partnership, it's honestly beautiful to see, and it's kind of like poetry in motion at times. Beautiful to watch, and those are probably the two things I'd say that he does very, very well. Like I said, the X factor is something that not many players in this team you could say have. Yes, Mason Mount, but not really to the same kind of fact as Kovacic. And that link up with Jorginho in the middle is something that not many players in the team can have. And the UEFA Men's Player of the Year obviously is Jorginho. So yeah, great to see.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that he has a telepathic or a connection with Jorginho whenever they play together. It's always so good to watch two of them play together. The touches, I mean, it's wonderful to watch them two play. But usually, because whenever the two of them play together, there's always some sacrifice defensively because we're missing, should I say, a definite defensive midfielder, and that is dangerous. So that's usually why he doesn't get a chance to play whenever. That is, in most cases, he's usually the odd guy out. It's usually Jorginho and Kante, like you mentioned. So now, apart from that, let's talk about his future. I was on Worldwide Charles the other day. It was nearly an argument, but I didn't have the chance to go into the panel to make that argument. Somebody was arguing that if Saúl Ñíguez comes to Chelsea, that Kovacic will most definitely leave. And I was like, no, My argument being that what he brings to the team is something that's very rare to find, and we don't have any other player that's capable of helping the team progress the ball when we play against opponent that press us aggressively. That's when you see Kovacic at his best, because he's press resistant and also he can dribble his way out of tight spaces. So that brings me to that the next question. His future, what do you think? Does he have a future at Chelsea, or do you think if we sign somebody like Saul that he will be sold, or if we sign somebody like Chomeni or Kamavinga that he will be sold?
No, I think Saul was going to be brought in as a fourth choice midfielder. That's definitely not someone who would just sit on the bench, for most days. That was simply a guy who would ease the burden off of Kante, who would play, he does have this knack of getting injuries recently. We needed someone who was going to kind of take the overload off of Kante and Jorginho, who played way too many games last season overall. He was very close to that kind of red zone in terms of injuries, and that definitely won't impact Kovacic's position in the team. It's still, last season we had Billy Gilmore, didn't really impact Kovacic's stance in the team. And, Kovacic is brought in for different kind of games. When teams are pressing high, we do see Kovacic kind of come in at times and maybe even off the bench, or we need, someone, an outball at times to receive the ball and drive at defenses and take the pressure off the team. Yes, I don't think Sal would have really affected. Tchouaméni is definitely a future player in my eyes, as a long-term Kante replacement. And they're definitely different players overall, but Kante is nearing his 31 years of age now, I believe. And he is going to leave very soon, in my opinion, to Real Madrid. He's going to get his dream move. And, his injuries are getting worse, so we should cash him while we can. Tchouaméni is a guy who's been tipped by Fabregas, tipped by many big players as a real star. And I think we will sign him this summer or next summer. Sal will be a stopgap, in my opinion. So I don't think Sal definitely won't impact Kovacic. They could even be together, Sal and Kovacic. Sal can drop back and maybe be the Jorginho role. Kovacic can go forward. They can be rotating a lot, so that could work out. If Tchouaméni comes in, that could even help Kovacic if you think about it. If Tchouaméni's been that DM kind of lone DM kind of playmaker, and Kovacic can kind of bomb forward and do everything he likes and have the freedom to roam the pitch and be a kind of, like I said, a press resistant player. So none of them are really going to impact the kind of thing. If we sign both of them, a very rare chance. If we do sign both of them, then yeah, I think it could impact it. But if Sal or Tchouaméni comes in, Kovacic should get a similar amount of games, and he should be able to fight his place. This is the Champions of Europe we're talking about. This isn't Crawley Town in League 2. This isn't Portsmouth FC. This is the Champions of Europe. If you want to play for our team, you have to fight for it. So, yeah, that's what I think will happen with Kovacic.
So you think he still has a future at the club?
Yeah, 100%. I think he has a future. As long as Thomas Tuchel stays at Chelsea and we don't get in another manager who plays an attack-innate system like a Jurgen Klopp. This is very retrospective, like a Jurgen Klopp. Like a manager who plays, a lone DM with two attack-innates who are very expansive. That's why I think he does not fit in. But in a kind of, a compact system like the Italy system, like the Tuchel system, like the Sarri system, I think he'll fit in. So as long as Thomas Tuchel stays, he keeps his job, yeah, Kovacic is going to be a big player, and Tuchel really loves him.
Yeah, Tuchel do really love him, and we've talked about that earlier in the show. And the truth is, I don't see that argument really doesn't make sense. And again, aside from us having a lot of games to play, needing a big squad to compete on all fronts, Kovacic brings something different that Saul doesn't offer. Yeah, it's some what's his name? Jorginho can get his way out of tight spaces with his skill, but he's not as press resistant as Kovacic is. So I don't see Tuchel making that decision to let him go because we've signed another midfielder. That will not happen. And that is Mateo Kovacic's profile. So get in the comment section below and let us know if we missed anything. Thank you very much for watching. And now on over to you, Taron. Please take some time and tell the viewers again about the perfect hat trick, because that's important. It's something I don't want them to miss, because it's great to follow, great to listen to, great insight from our teenagers who are well versed in the art of football. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity for coming on the channel again. Every time I come on here, it's great structure, great graphics, and a great host. So yeah, love to come on here first of all. And yeah, the Perfect Hat Trick podcast. On Monday morning UK time, there'll be a very special kind of start to a new series called Football Chatter, where we literally talk about random kind of football topics, like teenagers, but a little bit of insight, a little bit of detail, but mostly just big topics. Like the one on Monday will be about Arsenal's current situation, how we feel about what's going on at Arsenal, and two guys who don't really like Arsenal, so you're going to want to kind of watch that. And yeah, very, very exciting thing with me and Coachilla coming up now. There'll be official partnership on the Perfect Hat-Trick podcast where, yeah, we will be partnering an official kind of start to this kind of great thing that we've already developed over the last few months. Me and Coachilla have a great dynamic on screen, and now we'll be going on to the Perfect Hat-Trick podcast. And yeah, you'll be hearing some exciting stuff on there as well. Coachilla will be coming on a lot in the future. And yeah, it's going to be a great kind of partnership. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, hope you enjoy.
Yes, the man mentioned, there's a partnership coming on that's between the Chelsea Perspective and the Perfect Hat-Trick, and it's something I'd like you to keep your eyes open for it, or ears, because this time you listen, don't miss it. I can assure you it will be great, because from the side of Perfect Hat-Trick, quality matters. They don't just put out content, they put out quality content, so you don't want to miss it. And please don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, to help the channel grow, and more importantly, click on the bell notification button so you don't miss anything. Again, it is me, Coachila, and my brother, Taron. See you guys next time. Cheers.